Today, we remember the life and legacy of Senator Lindsey Graham, a man who spent decades in public service and became one of the most recognizable voices in American politics. Thank you for joining us today on My Mornings. I'm Vanessa Broussard. Today, Washington, the state of South Carolina, and America remember longtime Senator Lindsey Graham. Let's bring in Mark Lynch, who ran against Lindsey in the last primary. Mr. Lynch, thank you so much for being here with us today. This was a surprise. It was a
A
surprise
big
passing to us
surprise.
all. Yes, I know you and
Yeah.
Lindsey, you both had differences, but we can't look beyond his life of service, not only in Congress, but in the United States Air Force. Lindsey Graham lost both of his parents at a young age. He stepped in to care for his younger sister. Uh, he was always giving. He gave for his sister, he gave for our country. What can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah. I mean, we have disagreements on policy and certain things like that, but we can't deny that Lindsey gave so much of his life to serving South Carolina and serving America in a way that he thought was right. And it's a huge sacrifice. I mean, we started getting calls at 3 in the morning and text all day Sunday, and it's like, y'all give it a break. We need to have time to mourn and take all this in. What just happened with a gentleman that served America all these years? Just running a campaign is a big undertaking, as we all know. This anybody that's ever done it, and then serving and sacrificing and staying in D.C. or staying in the state house if you serve in the state or at the federal level, like Lindsey did both. Um, Man, it's a lot of work and a huge undertaking, and it's a selfless act. And so my hat goes off to him with all the years of service he provided.
You know, Mark, he was very outspoken, as we know. And in the beginning, he was sometimes very critical of President Trump, then became a close friend and ally of the president. The president has had media interviews, he's put out statements, he has said that he's very sad. This is a huge loss for America.
Yes, yep. You know, but we're looking at all of this again, and we owe our voters and the donors and the people that worked so hard in our campaign, that gave everything they had to help me get elected. And we came up with right at 29% of the vote, and nobody's ever achieved that. And so everybody's ready to get back, and they're asking, after we've had time to mourn and pray for the Graham family and his sister and everybody involved, and at his passing, and help the state and the country heal through this process. The calls keep coming and the news interviews keep coming, and I'm glad to be on today, Vanessa, with y'all. Thank you for having me. And so we're officially telling the world, telling South Carolina, and telling America, we're ready to run again and finish what God started in the Lynch for Senate campaign almost 2 years ago. I was called, and God made it clear to me where to run, and the people of South Carolina asked me to run, knowing me as a deacon, as a leader in our community in South Carolina, being a successful, debt free businessman. That's what people want to see in government, not career politicians. And there's a lot of people now vying to run for this seat where they just ran for something different 2 or 3 cycles ago, and they're still wanting to stay in politics. And I think South Carolinians are ready for a true conservative, somebody that's a God fearing Republican, a true patriot that'll make consistent, conservative, common sense decisions for South Carolina and America, that'll go to work for the people and represent a true Republican stance. That's what we've had that's been broken in our party. And we've got a lot of work to do. And America's at a pivotal point, and South Carolina is. And so we're following up. We're mission focused. We started this race. We've invested a lot of money and time, and our voters deserve to continue on so that we can finish strong and help get me in D.C. to serve South Carolinians there.
Wow. Mark Lynch, let's pivot here for a second. That's a huge announcement there that you just put out. Thank you for letting us know that you have decided to jump back into the race with your campaign. How does that work from here? What is the next step for you?
Well, we're meeting and praying and strategizing tactically what and how we're going to do it, and making sure our team's ready to go, and they are, because we just finished this race, 5 weeks ago or whatever, and then this tragic thing happened. It's like, golly. So it's a big decision, and it's we're all weighing the sacrifice that it is, and my wife and I prayed about it, and we're committed to do this because the people are calling and say, please get back in. We need you desperately in DC to represent us. And so after considering all that yesterday and meeting with several of the campaign members and praying, it's clear we're moving forward with this sacrifice like Lindsey did for 30 years. We're ready to make the sacrifice for America and fight for America. That's our campaign theme. And we're a God-owned, God first campaign. And God says in his word in Psalm 33, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And we've got to get back to that because that's what this country was founded on. And as a deacon in our church, I understand that. And we bring God's principles first and the Constitution back to America, and to make good, common sense, biblical decisions with every decision.
Mr. Lynch, I have to ask you, since you made that announcement just now, let's talk about Lindsey Graham, his stance, and what your stance would be. President Trump said he spoke to Lindsey Graham the night before his passing, and that he told the president over the phone he had enough votes to move forward with the Save America Act. What is your view on the Save America Act?
I mean, that's been something that's needed to have passed hundreds of days ago. I forget how long it's been, but we've been working on that. We're talking about a Save South Carolina Act today too, because without voter integrity, election integrity, not requiring an ID of all things or proof of citizenship is crazy. We don't have that in this country. And I've said in the past during the campaign back in February and March and April, Lindsey could have used his senatorial power to nominate a committee to make a motion to vacate John Thune, who's been blocking the SAVE Act for even coming up for a vote. And America's tired of it. These are common sense things that I'll bring to the party, and we'll support President Trump in those issues, and we'll do business and get back to work again for America.
And let's talk about also, there were people who were against Lindsey Graham for several reasons. One of those, Mark, was because what they say, they called him a warmonger, that he invoked wars, whether it be what's going on in Iran, whether it be what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. As you know, he had just come back from Ukraine before his passing. What is your stance on the current war that's going on? And I have to ask you that now that you've put out that you are going to be moving forward to take over his seat. And the American people would like to know, because there are people out there who believe that if we are at war, that's not America first. And so they believe that Lindsey Graham, that he was supportive of these wars. And so therefore that he wasn't America first. What's your take on that?
Right. It's a complicated question. And with the little bit of knowledge and information you and I have access to, not being in the White House or in the Pentagon meetings or in the room with Trump and his staff, Iran Muslims are definitely an enemy to the country. I know that some of the facts that we heard along the way a while back, several months ago from Joe Kent and Tulsi Gabbard, was that they didn't believe Iran was an imminent threat, and that we shouldn't go to war. Lindsey was talking to Netanyahu and giving information to Trump, and he always has been a warmonger. Everybody knows that. He's for war when we probably don't need to get involved. And, as a businessman being bankrupt with over $39 trillion in debt, I don't think we can afford that. And we're overlooking the problems inside of our walls here at home in our country with the terrorist cells and drug cartels and like approximately 22 million illegal aliens that he was for granting amnesty to. We can't do that. We've got problems right here at home we have to deal with. And I've read the book, the Bible, and God's not going to let Israel get wiped off of the face of the map. That just isn't going to happen. And so we've got to support America first and protect our jobs and protect our homeland before we go traveling all over the world trying to save everybody else. And so people are tired of that and the spending that's happening. We know that Lindsey was part of the military industrial complex, and Boeing and Lockheed Martin were two of his biggest contributors. And there's a lot of money made in wars. And I hate to see people that are willing to sacrifice their lives to go fight for this country and get put in a political war that really we shouldn't be involved in. So if it's a true threat to America, yes, we will go and end it, and end it quickly, and get our men and women back home. And I think that's what everybody's for now. Let's get over this. We've gone to war. We've had a peace agreement. We go to war. We have a peace agreement. We've gone through like 30 changes back and forth of making deals, and we can't make deals with this people. Let's do what we got to do, end it, and come home.
Good take there, Mr. Lynch. You're absolutely right. We don't know what's going on inside the Situation Room. We don't know what's going on inside these policy meetings. And so we just know what they put out for us. And this is a very transparent administration. And so Lindsey was in these meetings. Lindsey did call President Trump. President Trump in an interview just this morning saying that Lindsey called him all the time, and he joked that he had to tell him, Lindsey, quit calling me. So they discussed matters that the public is not aware of yet. And so you're absolutely right. You really don't know until you get there in Congress to see what's going on behind the scenes. I want to bring up, I know this is fresh. I know that, unfortunately, we lost Senator Graham yesterday morning. You have been on the phone and meeting with your team about moving forward and announcing your campaign here on Lindell TV. But your website, your campaign website, we're going to pull that up. Is that still active, Mr. Lynch?
Yes, we haven't turned it off since the first primary, so it's still up. We're making a few changes to it and getting on that today and tomorrow. But that is Lynch for Senate is still where people can go to read our platform and see what we're about. So we welcome you to go there, Lynch for Senate.
And any other words for the people of South Carolina? I know this is a tough day for them. Yesterday was as well a big surprise there. Any words
Yeah,
for them as we start to wrap this up?
I mean, like we're doing, we're praying for South Carolina, for the country, and most of all for the Graham family during this time of tragedy they're currently in. And let's don't forget that. Um, and so I hate that this is just the first day after we hear of his passing, but we're trying to answer the calls and the interviews, and I appreciate that. And we've got to still focus because somebody's got to get in that seat and pick up where Lindsey left off, and we all want to continue to try to do better than our predecessor and make America great again. And we know that that's bringing God back first, and those principles that we stand for. That's always been our mission. It always will be. We will not compromise from that. We won't take money from other people. We got to bring back purity and God into the Republican Party and represent what we read in the Republican Creed before every meeting and the Pledge of Allegiance. And we got to get back and protect life and be America first and defend America and our jobs and make a future for our young people coming out of school that we've all enjoyed the last years of our life. So we've got a lot of work to do. America's at a pivotal point, and it'll take a true fighter uh, to pick up and do the job and finish doing things the way Americans are ready for it. And that's what I intend to do, and our team's committed to it.
Well, you have a great team. Always wonderful to work with. Mark Lynch, thank you so much for being here with us today. I know you're going through a tough time trying to grasp everything, like we all are, with the surprise passing of Senator Lindsey Graham, but also working to move forward for what's best for your state and also the country. We're appreciative of the work that you're putting in. Again, I encourage everyone to go to your website. And Mr. Lynch, we will be in contact with you as the days progress. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Vanessa. God bless.
Let's take a look back at Senator Graham's voting record. I put together a top 10. He was strong on national defense, one of Washington's most outspoken advocates for a strong American military and robust defense spending. Senator Graham was strong on confirming conservative judges. He played a major role in the judicial confirmation battles during the Trump era, supporting the president's nominees. He was all for pro-life legislation, protecting the Second Amendment, tax cuts, and economic growth. Senator Graham supported major Republican tax cut legislation, including the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. He was huge on securing the border. He supported increased resources at the southern border for not only Border Patrol, but also immigration enforcement. He was a huge supporter of Israel, knowing that they were one of our biggest allies. He was one of Israel's most vocal supporters in the Senate. He was big on standing with Ukraine. He was also a leading supporter of Ukraine, backing military assistance and tougher sanctions against Russia. Now, many disagreed with his stance on military assistance for Ukraine. He was huge on confirming presidential nominees. He supported many Republican nominees, including cabinet officials, and also bipartisan immigration reform. While known as a conservative Republican, Lindsey Graham also crossed party lines on immigration. He pushed for immigration reform back in 2013. Senator Lindsey Graham, a pillar. We will always remember his life, his service, and his legacy. May he rest in peace.
You know, most people think water's just about filtration, but in reality, it's about balance. What gets removed, what gets left behind, and how the water actually behaves once you drink it. Well, many traditional systems focus on one thing, removal. Reverse osmosis, for example, strips water down completely. It may sound ideal, but it removes minerals that our bodies need. The Century Wellness System was designed with a different philosophy. It removes common contaminants like chlorine, fluoride, and PFAS while restoring key minerals like magnesium and improving alkalinity. It also does all this without tanks and without wastewater and without requiring a complicated installation. It installs in about 15 minutes under your sink, so instead of overcorrecting, it brings your water back into balance. Please visit CenturyH2O.com and use promo code Lindell for 10% off your next purchase. Mike Lindell here. The radical left and the deep state aren't just coming for our freedoms, they're coming after our money too. For years, they've been destroying our economy from the inside out with reckless spending, open borders, woke policies that crush our businesses. And now they've left us with an inflation disaster that's wiping out the savings of our hardworking families. They don't want us to be independent. They want us to be dependent on the government. Well, that's not going to happen on my watch. That's why I partner with American Independence Gold. It's a veteran-owned company that's helping patriotic Americans fight back by protecting our savings with real physical gold and silver. And right now, they're giving away up to $15,000 in free silver and a free gold IRA kit. A portion of all the profits go to 9/11 first responders and veterans at the Tunnels to Towers Foundation. The deep state can't touch your gold, so visit MikeLindellGold.com or call 844-714-4653 right now. That's MikeLindellGold.com. Take back control. Well, hello, everyone. Well, I'm turning 65, and let me tell you, Medicare has me confused. all the junk mail and the robocalls and everything else, it honestly feels like they rigged the system just to confuse us. Well, that's why I partnered and working with Chapter. They're independent and they don't work for big insurance. They work for us. In fact, they're the only advisor that compares every single plan nationwide to find what actually fits your needs. If you're on the right plan, they tell you. If you're not, they're going to help you switch. And it's completely free. Just last year, seniors saved about $1,100 by finding a better plan with Chapter. So call Chapter at 234-LINDELL or go to askchapter.org/Lindell.
Talk is cheap when it comes to saving our country. We're not just any cell phone service provider. We're Patriot Mobile. It's not enough to simply talk about values. We live them. Defending life, protecting our First and Second Amendments, and celebrating our military and first responder heroes. We're boots on the ground making a difference. We're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider with nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks and 100% U.S.-based customer service. Join Patriot Mobile today and make an impact every time you use your cell phone.
America's founders warned that without knowledge and virtue, no nation can remain free. Yet through the steady infiltration of Marxist ideology, we have been stripped of both, and we are no longer a moral and educated people. To save America, we must spark nothing less than a national renaissance. That's why you need Freedom Talk Magazine, the journal of truth and virtue. We cultivate enlightened thinking and principled living, offering unique insights into the issues and remarkable people defining our world. Sign up today for your free subscription to Freedom Talk Magazine and join the new American Renaissance.
Welcome back to the morning show. The situation in Iran has sharply escalated again, with the Strait of Hormuz now at the center of the conflict. U.S. Central Command reporting that the Strait of Hormuz is open to all vessels seeking to lawfully transit the international waterway. They say U.S. forces are positioned and prepared to ensure that freedom of navigation remains available despite unwarranted Iranian aggression, harassment, and threats. They also say Iran does not control the strait and that traffic is flowing this morning. Let's bring in Shaheen Gabadi with the Iranian Resistance Parliament in Exile. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being on with us today. The United States attacking Iran again. It was an active weekend. What are you hearing?
Well, good morning and thanks for having me. You see, the Iranian regime has always used the belligerence and warmongering as a pillar of its survival. And while we, as the Iranian resistance, very much welcome this memorandum of understanding, we pointedly said that so long as this regime can, it will go for nuclear weapons, it will go for belligerence in the region, it will go for propping up the proxies. And this is exactly what happened. I think one has to be very clear-eyed about how this regime has survived and will survive and will try to clinch to power. It has used basically 3 pillars. One is driving for nuclear weapons, propping up proxies and creating belligerence in the region, and also repression at home. So for this regime, repression at home and belligerence in the region go hand in hand. That's exactly what we are saying. The regime is trying to cover up its weakness at home, and it's a very acute crisis is facing from all directions by resorting to more belligerence. And now with the supreme leader gone and his, son is still not, appearing in public in a very, very weak footing, and with a lot of IRGC top brass gone, the regime being in a much weaker position and very much worried about another uprising, obviously will try anything it can to, as I said, create havoc in the region. And that's exactly what we're saying. And we have witnessed that they are even trying to expand the countries they attack. A lot of countries that even Oman, who was the intermediary between the regime and the West for some time, was now targeted. So this is the type of regime we are facing. But let's have no mistake. The regime is very weak. It has never been any weaker. And these are desperate acts of the regime that is grabbing at any straws.
There were new strikes over the weekend, a 4th round of strikes, Shaheen. And while the U.S. was striking Iran, Iran was striking other countries, Qatar being one of those. I think for the American people, we hear that they have been decimated. How are they still striking other countries if, they don't have anything left?
Well, obviously, these are all issues of assessments, and it's a big country. You have to remember this country has 90 million plus people, and also I think now, once again, to the attestment of what the Iranian resistance has been saying for years and years, basically the clerical regime has used every resource that has been available to it for creating this, missile cities all over the country, and go for nuclear weapons and for repressive Iranian people. And Iran, being a vast country, a resourceful country, obviously has provided the means. And here I should add another element. For more than 3 decades, unfortunately, the policy of appeasement by various, previous administrations and by the Europeans enabled the regime to have the means to create these missiles, these wars, these missile cities underground. As I said, instead of devoting its resources to the welfare of Iranian people, which normally is a job of any government, they have basically used the resources for this kind of, sinister objectives. So I'm not surprised that the regime has got some missiles left, because, as I said, they have been working on this for almost 4 decades.
Right. And when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, a lot of back and forth. The United States says one thing, Iran says another thing. I want to bring up the U.S. Central Command is really good about fact checking a lot of rumors online, what people are saying, false information that's being put out. They give a claim, and in this one in particular, it says that the Iranian commander recently said on state-owned media that no foreign vessels may pass through the strait. Then they fact-checked it and said Iran does not control the Strait of Hormuz. It remains an international waterway. U.S. forces are positioned and prepared to keep it that way. So the Strait of Hormuz is still the central point. I know it's, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, but the Strait of Hormuz is a central point in this ongoing battle.
It sure is. First of all, if I may interject, Iran should not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, because, as one can imagine, having nuclear weapons in the hands of the most dangerous regime is a very, very, very catastrophic proposition. And actually, you might find it interesting that it was the Iranian resistance, namely the Network of the People's Mujahideen organization of Iran, the main Iranian resistance movement, that revealed the existence of these secret nuclear sites 3 decades ago, and that's how the world was alarmed. So we found it as our patriotic duty to prevent the regime to acquire nuclear weapons, because the Iranian people are the first and primary victim of such an endeavor. Having said this, you're absolutely correct. The regime is trying to use Strait of Hormuz as a bargaining chip, or as a way to exert its hegemony, or ransom seeking, whatever one would like to call it, towards the international community. And this cannot be allowed, because free maritime is part and parcel of the international order. And if it happens on the Strait of Hormuz, then it will set a very, very bad precedent for the rest of the world. Honestly speaking, we can talk about the Strait of Hormuz, we can talk about missiles, we can talk about nuclear challenge that the Iranian regime poses to the world. But I think it all comes down to the big question of what should one do, what the international community should do vis-a-vis such a regime. I think that the only solution for Iran crisis, which has been persisting for a lot of time, is a regime change by the Iranian people and the Iranian organized resistance. This is the only viable solution for Iran crisis. So long as you have this regime, trust me, you will have crisis one way or the other, and it will persist. So, and the situation has never been any riper for such a change. Iranian people want change. They want a regime change. They are looking forward to a regime change with the resistance at its core. It's time for international community to come and provide political support. I just heard your previous guest talking about the U.S. I think you will find it very interesting that the Iranian resistance is not calling for boots on the ground. It's not even calling for American taxpayers' money. It's not been calling for American weapons. All it's asking for is a good policy, a policy that realizes the rights of the Iranian people, to overthrow this regime, to bring about a regime change by themselves, to establish a democratic republic, as Madam Mariam Rajavi, the president-elect of the Iranian resistance, has articulated time and again, to provide free internet to the Iranian people so they can communicate with the rest of the world, to hold the regime's leaders accountable for all their crimes. And these steps will go a very long way. The Iranian people are ready for bringing down this regime. As the world saw in January, they have a very strong organized resistance inside the country working diligently towards this end. But now the international community should help them with the right policy and politically.
I have to bring up, we only have a few minutes left. I have to bring up the threats against the president of the United States. The president last week mentioned multiple times that there are threats against his life. He has also told the public, been very vocal about leaving notes, messages, rules for the next in line, the vice president, if something were to happen to him. He also went on Truth Social and posted this: 1,000 missiles are locked and loaded and aimed at the Islamic Republic of Iran, with thousands of more to immediately follow should the Iranian government act on its threat pronounced in many corners of the globe to assassinate or attempt to assassinate the sitting president of the United States of America, in this case, me. Orders have already been given, and the U.S. military is ready, willing, and able for a 1-year period of time, subject to extension, to completely decimate and destroy all areas of Iran. Then he goes on to say, praise be to Allah. This is a serious threat. And for the president to mention this multiple times last week and then also go to Truth Social and put something out there, that means this is very serious.
Sure. Look, the Iranian regime is the #1 state sponsor of terrorism the world over, period. They have institutionalized terrorism outside of Iranian borders with all their means and assets, period. So one should be quite, open-eyed about the threat that this raises. They have carried out more than 450 operations, terrorist operations, I would say, outside the Iranian borders. So the threat is, of the regime's terrorism and its long arm of terrorism is very serious. And there has to be a much more robust international response. And I emphasize the word international response. Just a couple of hours ago, for instance, after a long procrastination, after years and years of endeavor by the Iranian resistance, particularly Madam Mariam Rajavi, the president-elect of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, which has been calling for this, the British government just proscribed IRGC, the main arm of the Iranian regime's terrorism, as a terrorist entity. This should have been done much earlier. For more than 2 decades, we provided evidence about how IRGC is a terrorist entity. And as I said, Madam Mariam Rajavi, the president-elect of the Iranian resistance, had called for this time and again. So I would say the world should take the issue of Iranian regime's terrorism very seriously. There is a need for a robust cross-Atlantic response to this. And that comes through supporting the Iranian resistance, the Iranian people's desire, because this regime has made terrorism institutionalized. It has made going for nuclear weapons institutionalized, going for missiles institutionalized, and now you add the challenge on Hormuz on top of this. So we can go through the litany of the crisis this regime has been creating for the whole world, and first and foremost for Iranian people. But now is the time to be decisive with the right approach. And I think the moment is coming fast.
Absolutely. I believe you're right. All right, Shaheen Gabati, good to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me. Have a nice day.
You too. Well, the Pentagon has released its 4th batch of declassified UFO files, and the world is wondering, what is this? 19 videos were released in the latest batch, and this one is the one that's catching everyone's eye. It's a 6-pointed star-shaped object over the Yellow Sea. This was back in 2025. The infrared clip was recorded by a U.S. military platform, and officials describe it only as an unexplained area of contrast. What is it? Not a drone. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Now to child sex trafficking in America. Last week, we told you about how the sports world is a hub for sex trafficking. Our Kara Castronova is in Washington, D.C. with more this morning on how we're combating trafficking.
Hey everybody, Kara Castronova with LINDELLTV here in Washington, D.C. at the America's Future 250 event. And I'm here right now with Broussard. Am I saying your name right?
Broussard. Right.
And his beautiful wife, Tina. And they represent the Association for the Recovery of Children. So they're subject matter experts on childhood sex trafficking, talking today about everything and how we could fight that and save these children. Can you tell us a little bit more about your organization?
Sure. Well, you can talk about the organization.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization of former intelligence, military, and law enforcement officers who are dedicated to the recovery of missing, exploited, and sex trafficked American children since 1993, which makes us just about the oldest child rescue organization in America. We do this at no cost to the custodial guardians and with no paycheck in our pocket. It's an all volunteer service. And so far, we're blessed to have a 100% success rate after 30 some years, and that every kid we've gone after, we've brought home. So we're grateful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Will you give me an example of one of these kids you brought home and how that must have felt?
It's indescribable. Once you experience this, you never want to do anything else. So that was my experience. I would say like the first kid that I got out, it changed my life. I drove her for 12 hours to a safe house and we talked the entire time. She told me her whole life story. She told me what had happened to her and how. And here was a kid whose she was a single mom. This girl was home alone at night and she started sneaking out to go with the street kids, right? And then it turned into recruitment into sex trafficking very, very quickly. So she hadn't known a safe place in her life. And for her to be with me during that drive, she felt safe. She fell asleep on my shoulder. She was looking at cows and sheep and things that she'd never seen before. She had never tasted Oreos before, like really basic things you'd think every kid knows. She didn't know how to be a kid. And I mean, I felt so blessed to be like the first really safe person that she got to spend time with.
What had happened to her? Was she being molested, raped?
So CPS had been involved in her case 9 times. She had a lot of CPS reports. Her mother was in the street life, I would just say. So she'd been exposed to this from a young age. When she started sneaking out of the house, she went with the street kids and they put her in a fight ring because she was a really tough fighter, right?
How old was she?
She was 11 when they started this. They would put her in fight rings with other girls and they would bet on the girls. So she started making money that way. And then when she was 13, they asked her to start stripping for money. And then by the time she was 13 and a half, 14, they were offering her money to basically do sex dates.
And so then did these people see jail time? Like these people that have put her up to this? How does that work?
Yeah. So these were gang pimps. They were professional recruiters. So they were boyfriending, hey girl, you know what? And then they would give her drugs. So she was getting drugs for it. And then she saw this as a way to make money. And keep in mind, her mom is out at night. She doesn't have a safe place to go at night. So she's hanging out with these people for lack of a better option. In her case, they were arrested, but it's rare. So she worked with me. I was able to get the real identities of these pimps. And then it took 3 years still after she was safe for us to actually identify and get those pimps arrested. Here's the tragedy. Most of them got like 3 years or less, right? So actually prosecuting and getting a successful prosecution is very, very hard. But yes, if the victim is willing to work with you and give names and places, it is possible to get an arrest.
And I know that I know when I go to the airport now, I've lately been seeing signs on the bathroom doors. If you see something, say something. When it comes to childhood trafficking, what advice could you give people watching how they could spot somebody being trafficked?
Yeah, really quick. An imbalance of power. If you're out on the street and you're seeing girls that are dressed really provocatively and they're young and you can tell that something's going on, right? If you see a younger girl being courted by an older man and you can see that you can see that dynamic. But in an airport or in some public place, they're not there dressed out, right? You're going to look for an imbalance of power. This girl or this boy who's being trafficked won't make eye contact, won't communicate, won't answer questions. They'll get in trouble for even making eye contact with you. So you're going to look for somebody in charge of them who's clearly controlling them. Also, that kid will not have their own luggage. So like if it's a family on vacation, all the kids have their little character suitcase and normal luggage, but traffic victim won't be allowed to have their own luggage. They may have a plastic bag. They may have one handbag. So the biggest thing to look for is this person is clearly afraid. That person is clearly controlling them.
And generally, should you go to the police on that? Will they actually investigate? Probably not.
Well, you know, if they're well trained in anti-trafficking, they may. If they're not stretched across the board with homicides and car thefts and counterterrorists and the list goes on, they probably will. If they are under budgeted, if it's not a priority, depending on which law enforcement entity you're speaking with, they may.
But airport now, is the airport now trained for this? Because we are seeing these advertisements, or at least these public service messages encouraging people to report.
You do, and what we try not to do is give somebody kind of the pill for them by saying, hey, if you just do this one thing, you've got it all now. And it's not true. This is why we run a 6-day fight child trafficking equipping course, so that people don't make mistakes when there's not a trafficking issue and they waste their time or they waste time of law enforcement or whatever it may be. It's a little more complicated than that because the criminal enterprise is extremely sophisticated now. And with the advent of technology and stuff, predators use so many tricks of the trade to traffic kids that if you're not fine-tuned in what you're looking for, you won't spot it. All the things that Tina was just talking about are true, but I don't want people walking away from this interview and going, oh, I know the 5 things she just said. I can look for those things. What you'll end up doing, you'll have somebody report, which we have had before, where they go, hey, I got this lady, she's kidnapping a kid. And it's like, well, what's going on? Well, she's trying to put a little baby in a baby seat in the back of her car and he's screaming. I know she's kidnapping him. Well, how many parents out there have tried to get their kids in baby seats and had them scream? See, so we don't want these things to we don't want people to make those mistakes. And at the same time, I will say that while our law enforcement partners are doing a much better job with this type of crime against children, there are so many still in the United States that are not well trained, and there's so many citizens in the communities that are not well trained. Most American citizens believe it's somebody else's job to do. You know, most police officers are so inundated with crimes, they don't get to see their families for a whole week. So what we try to do is tell communities, guess what? Our Constitution says we the people. This is your responsibility. Get in the fight, get trained, know what you're looking for, and know your laws of your state so you can go do what we're doing, and that's going to saving kids.
How many kids would you say that your organization has helped or saved?
We don't count, but over 500. But what we make a point not to count, because every one child matters. So like the numbers really don't matter. It's a life at a time.
Wait, so if you go back and say every child matters.
Every child matters. And we look at every case as the case, right? Even though we have a lot of cases.
Yeah. Because in America, what happens is sometimes you'll hear these numbers, these stats, and people will escalate volumes. They'll say, well, you know, we had 450,000 American children missing this year. And it's a big wow factor. It's like, oh my gosh. And I always ask people, well, what if it was just one child? Would you care as much? And so the reality of child sex trafficking in America is this: we are never going to end this in our country. It's not going to happen until God comes back, okay?
Yeah.
So we define success as one child at a time, and we try to get Americans involved and say, look, just go get one and you get another one. And at the end of the day, we may not rescue all of them in our lifetime, but the question is, what are you going to do on your watch? What happens when you leave this earth and you stand before God? You say, hey, I didn't give it a try or whatever. So this is the way we look at it. Now, there are deterrents that we can put in place that aren't in place in America right yet that will slow the process of crimes against children, because that's what it is. It's just like child trafficking. Right. It's crimes against children. And so one of those things, and if President Trump was listening, then guess what? Put it in federal law, the death penalty for anybody that rapes a child under the age of 18 in America. Not under 12, under 18. And guess what? We'll start seeing some things happen. It's called accountability. And this is the one thing Americans are screaming for now at every level. It's accountability for people that are raping children, because our children are the future of our republic. And we have to look at that. And that's why they matter. Right now, that's not being done. We're seeing it slow rolled from one state to the next. We saw Florida, Alabama, Utah, people that we've been talking to over the years. But until it becomes a federal crime, and I'm talking about from 18 below, it's going to keep going like it's going.
That's a good point. So when it comes to people helping out, how can people help out and learn more about your organization?
So we do equipping courses all across the country, and we do 6 of them a year in all various parts of the country. So go to recoveryofchildren.com, recoveryofchildren.com. We have all of our classes posted for the next 2 years, and you can come. I do all the registrations, so let me know. But yeah, get trained. It's a 6-day course, but it'll teach you the A to Z of trafficking, what to look for, who's doing it, how they're doing it, what recruiting tactics look like. And then no matter what area of life you're involved in, there are ways to get involved in fighting trafficking and saving kids out of it. So we also teach about rescues. So yeah, it's all in the course.
So that's great. So there is a way people can do something and get involved. I think a lot of people do want to. They just don't know how. What was your website again?
Recoveryofchildren.com.
Please go there, find out more about these courses, and do something, especially if you have the spare time. I think people that are retired, people that are young, people that are in between jobs, anybody can help out. Thank you so much, both of you, for the work that you do. Thank you.
And the numbers are staggering, and experts warn that the numbers still don't tell the whole story. In 2024 alone, more than 6,600 potential sex trafficking situations were reported to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. While the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, they received nearly 28,000 reports in 1 year. And because so many victims remain hidden, officials say the true scale of the crime is difficult to measure. Well, last week, the Tyler Robinson hearing wrapped up. Sitting inside the courtroom was Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk's parents. For 5 days, they listened to heartbreaking testimony. Erica Kirk, not letting that slow her down, attended the Turning Point USA Leadership Conference this weekend. On stage, strong as ever. Watch.
This past week, I have seen something I'm still trying to unpack and put into words. And someone asked me, do you still want to go to the Chapter Leadership Summit? And I sat there and I thought, I already knew my answer, but I just thought about it. I like to internalize things, sometimes too much. And I thought to myself, you know, if you don't fight for what's right, I would much rather our country look like this room than the inside of that courtroom. So that means having hard conversations. That means when you're tabling, if your table keeps getting destroyed, become a roving table yourself and go talk to people. Go sit with people at lunch you don't normally sit with. Be creative with the ways that you are a chapter leader, because you are a leader, you are not a follower.
So strong. As Turning Point continues to thrive, the judge in the Tyler Robinson case should have a decision by the 1st of August on if the case will move to trial. Well, today is an anniversary we will never forget. Butler. Today, President Trump was shot. More on that next. Stay with us.
When you read one news source, you get one side. When you read two sources, you get an argument. Read 40 sources, and you get the truth. LindellReport.com, the only place you ever need to visit for your news. From LINDELLTV, over 40 trusted outlets in one place. No editorial gatekeepers, no hidden bias. Just the day's news. Balanced, unfiltered, ready when you are. Whether you lean left, right, or straight down the middle, this is where you start your day. One click, one feed, one truth. The decision is yours. LindellReport.com. The news you need, the balance you deserve.
And like everybody else out there, I have used my arm, folded my pillows, got migraines in the morning from sleeping on poor pillows, and pillows are the problem. There is no bigger problem than a pillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it holds that support all night long to take the pressure off your shoulders and keep your neck aligned. One's the size of a quarter, one's the size of a dime, and one's the size of down. Inside every pillow, they're interlocked together. You see how that holds?
Oh my gosh.
That
It's
will
soft,
not
but
migrate.
supportive.
Wherever you set that, you get exactly what you need for your individual neck support. I do all of my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota, and every part of my pillow is made in the USA. It's machine washable and dryable, and it comes with my 60-day money-back guarantee and a full 10-year warranty. Sleep is one of the most important things to your health, and my pillow is one of the most important things to your sleep.
So go to mypillow.com or call 800-676-2147. Use promo code LTV to take advantage of this exclusive Lindell TV offer. Order now.
Let's take a look at Wall Street opening bell numbers. A live look from MarketWatch.com. The Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ. The Dow up just a little bit today. The S&P 500, NASDAQ down at this hour. Investors are reacting to the latest escalation between U.S. and Iran. Oil prices are jumping more than 3% at this hour. Investors are also watching a busy week ahead. The latest inflation report is due tomorrow. In your news to go as you start your day, it's a day none of us will ever forget. July 13th, 2024, when shots rang out in Butler, Pennsylvania. Today marks 2 years.
And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened. Oh.
And none of us knew at that time if the president survived. Until that infamous fist bump where he stood up and yelled, "Fight, fight, fight." Today on the 2-year anniversary and every day, we are so grateful he turned his head on that day. Just enough to survive a bullet. Praise God. Moving on to the president's schedule for today at 8 o'clock this morning, he held an executive meeting. At 1:30 this afternoon, he will take part in a Freedom 250 Grand Prix showcase in the Oval Office. At 3 o'clock, he will meet with the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and the Chairman of the NRCC. And at 4 o'clock this afternoon, he will conduct a live radio interview with Hugh Hewitt. At 4:30, he will sign an executive order. For more news headlines, you can always visit LINDELLTV.com. Don't forget the Lindell TV app. You can download it right now on your phones and on your tablets. Now to our Bible verse of the day. Today's verse comes from the book of Psalms. The Bible says, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer." And that'll do it for us here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you all same time, same place tomorrow. And we leave you today with remembrance of Senator Lindsey Graham, an American serviceman who died suddenly at 71 years old.
You know, most people think water's just about filtration, but in reality, it's about balance. What gets removed, what gets left behind, and how the water actually behaves once you drink it. Well, many traditional systems focus on one thing, removal. Reverse osmosis, for example, strips water down completely. It may sound ideal, but it removes minerals that our bodies need. The Century Wellness System was designed with a different philosophy. It removes common contaminants like chlorine, fluoride, and PFAS while restoring key minerals like magnesium and improving alkalinity. It also does all this without tanks and without wastewater, and without requiring a complicated installation. It installs in about 15 minutes under your sink, so instead of overcorrecting, it brings your water back into balance. Please visit CenturyH2O.com and use promo code Lindell for 10% off your next purchase. Mike Lindell here. The radical left and the deep state aren't just coming for our freedoms, they're coming after our money too. For years, they've been destroying our economy from the inside out with reckless spending, open borders, woke policies that crush our businesses. And now they've left us with an inflation disaster that's wiping out the savings of our hardworking families. They don't want us to be independent. They want us to be dependent on the government. Well, that's not going to happen on my watch. That's why I partner with American Independence Gold. It's a veteran-owned company that's helping patriotic Americans fight back by protecting our savings with real physical gold and silver. And right now, they're giving away up to $15,000 in free silver and a free gold IRA kit. A portion of all the profits go to 9/11 first responders and veterans at the Tunnels to Towers Foundation. The deep state can't touch your gold, so visit MikeLindellGold.com or call 844-714-4653 right now. That's MikeLindellGold.com. Take back control. Well, hello, everyone. Well, I'm turning 65, and let me tell you, Medicare has me confused. All the junk mail and the robocalls and everything else, it honestly feels like they rigged the system just to confuse us. Well, that's why I partnered and working with Chapter. They're independent, and they don't work for big insurance. They work for us. In fact, they're the only advisor that compares every single plan nationwide to find what actually fits your needs. If you're on the right plan, they tell you. If you're not, they're going to help you switch. And it's completely free. Just last year, seniors saved about $1,100 by finding a better plan with Chapter. So call Chapter at 234-LINDELL or go to askchapter.org/Lindell.
Talk is cheap when it comes to saving our country. We're not just any cell phone service provider. We're Patriot Mobile. It's not enough to simply talk about values. We live them. Defending life, protecting our First and Second Amendments, and celebrating our military and first responder heroes. We're boots on the ground making a difference. We're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider with nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks and 100% U.S.-based customer service. Join Patriot Mobile today and make an impact every time you use your cell phone.
America's founders warned that without knowledge and virtue, no nation can remain free. Yet through the steady infiltration of Marxist ideology, we have been stripped of both, and we are no longer a moral and educated people. To save America, we must spark nothing less than a national renaissance. That's why you need Freedom Talk Magazine, the journal of truth and virtue. We cultivate enlightened thinking and principled living, offering unique insights into the issues and remarkable people defining our world. Sign up today for your free subscription to Freedom Talk Magazine and join the new American Renaissance.
Welcome to Vocal, the free speech social app that gives you a platform to amplify your voice, speak freely, connect boldly, and be part of a growing movement for truth, faith, and freedom. Want to know what's happening right now? The Now Playing feature shows you exactly who's live and what's streaming in real time. Check out the show's feed, a